Hey, how's it going? I'm Dan Friedenberg, and I'm joined today with Ryan Yates. This is Spreadsheets and LIES, the new series with Ryan. Ryan, how you doing today, first of all?
I'm doing well, Dan. How about yourself?
Fantastic. And one of the biggest reasons is because we are celebrating, right? We did our first workshop, our first underwriting workshop. We had some neat campaigns as far as marketing and messaging, like the dude in his underwear. That was pretty intense, right? And it was exciting to have a group of people bringing some deals to be underwritten. So I guess to start that off, we have another thing that's more of a content piece and more of what's going on in the finance world right now, and what are some thoughts you can have as far as how to build your fund, how to grow your fund, basically some strategies that are going on first. But first of all, Ryan, let's debrief about the workshop and your vision for the one that's happening in January.
I think it went well. I think we had plenty of interaction with all the attendees. We only had a few, but I think it got the message across, and I think that's what we're aiming for. We're aiming for knowledge. Nothing we do is amazing. Nothing we do is magic. We just want to make sure that everyone's aware and understands what we're doing.
And we ended up underwriting a couple different deals. One was a small multifamily, and then the other one was a tow truck company. And I think that is one of the big underlying parts of what you do, is that you're not a one-trick pony in the sense of only doing multifamily underwriting or this other type. Do you want to expand on that a little bit?
Well, I mean, anyone who starts a business or wants to invest in a business understands exactly what's going on. We, our goal is to, as Cardinal Financial Consulting, is to make sure that we consult. I mean, consulting is huge, right? Our goal is to watch you build a business and build a future. It's not specifically tied to numbers. You don't have to use my services or anything like that, but we want to watch everyone succeed.
So I want to ask one spicy thing before we get into what's in the news thing. And I know we discussed about this. We were spitballing a few ideas here, but part of it stems from my own confusion, which is, you are a fractional CFO and CFO of a couple different companies. And there's a lot in common between that and just the straight up label of being an accountant, but really at the end of the day, you're making sure that compliance is baked in and all that sort of stuff. But since we discussed it before, I think you're ready to share with the audience, basically, where does a CPA service stop and yours begin? What's the overlap? What are the parts where, it's just basically, it makes more sense to work with somebody like you?
I mean, accounting is the base, right? Everyone needs an accountant. Everyone needs their taxes done. Everyone needs, their books and records in order. It's how you run the company. It's a little deeper than that. And yeah, you can always go to a CPA and some other guys who run tax practices, but everyone comes from a different perspective. My perspective in most cases is the next steps. So when you go out to look for money or you're looking to go public, that's where we step in and we're able to advise and consult on these next steps. Whether you want to take it public or you're looking for external money, there's so many opportunities out there to build that business to get to the next level. You need someone you can trust.
And a lot of people, they have a mother-in-law or some sort of, I guess you could call them journeyman or amateur or just basically small scale helpers in bookkeeping and accounting. What are some thoughts on that subject as opposed to somebody with more similar experience to yours at the world's biggest banks?
Listen, I think it's great. I think, accounting is important for everybody. And, no matter who it is who steps in, you only have the experience that you go through. And I have no problem, with small bookkeepers, but you need to be able to stay up on your knowledge. And as things change, especially with AI getting involved and all this other stuff, you need to learn to leverage it, or you might be missing out on something.
Exactly. And so for both of us, before we get into the news part, LinkedIn is definitely the best way to reach out to me. It's where I spend most of my social media time. I think that's also true for you, Ryan. So make sure you do reach out if you want to be part of our next workshop, if you want to learn more about underwriting, if you have some deals that you'd like to have professionally underwritten for free, just basically finding out more about that. And that is the way that I recommend to reach out. But the next thing that I want to talk about, it's more in the news. It's had a little bit of time to cool down. There's some philosophical ideas that I want to get across about it. But if you want to kick things off a little bit, the main topic I want to discuss is the advent of 50-year mortgages. Some people love the idea. Some people hate the idea. Some people are more focused on what's the nationwide impact of a program like that, whereas other people are looking at, the little guy, and if they don't have really access to capital, there's likely to be inflationary forces on housing and asset prices. And if you want to pepper in the fact that you've focused in alternative assets for your career, I think that's a good addition. But what are your thoughts there, Ryan?
I mean, anyone who thinks it's a good idea is lying. You come right out and say it, right? If you look at car loans now, what are car loans? 6 to 7 years, maybe a little more. They used to be 2 to 4. And all you're doing is stretching it out and creating more interest. Now, there's a lot of people who come out and say that, lending or borrowing money is the way to make money and all this other stuff. But the truth is, if you're not earning money off of your money, it doesn't matter how much you borrow or how much you lend, it's not worth it. Your value of your house, yeah, it goes up, it goes down, and you're gonna have to pay your mortgage back regardless. No one should pay off their mortgage. I'm in that boat to some extent, especially if you have a great interest rate. If you're in the 2 to 3% range, that's cheap money. I agree with that. The question comes down to 2 to 3% for the next 50 years versus 5% for the next 25. That's when you got to start doing that calculation and realizing it, because if you kick that can too far down the road, it's going to be someone else's problem.
And it really becomes a house of cards, right? That's the nature of leverage, which is that if you're borrowing and borrowing, even if you do have cash flowing assets to go off of, you basically, it only takes one or two stinkers to bring it all down. Is that about a good summary on that?
Yep. No, I completely. And you know what? I'm going to come out and say it. Life's a Ponzi scheme, because what do you take with you when you go? Absolutely nothing. So, the real truth is, you have to be responsible. You have to make sure you're earning enough, and you have to make sure that, all the factors are in play are being, accounted for. If you're making $25,000 a year, you shouldn't own a house. You need to make more. You need to learn more. And it's, it's a harsh truth. And, I have these conversations all the time that, we have to work hard for what we have.
That's the nature of scarcity, right? And me personally, I'm in my mid 40s, and I have one parent who didn't even make it to 52. So if that's the case, a 50-year mortgage, there's a huge chance that you're not going to make it to the end of it. But the other part I wanted to add in, which was sort of the philosophical thing, I've met a decent number, especially I find this in single family investment, less so in multifamily, but people will actively seek out interest only loans because they have no interest in getting a piece in the appreciation at the end of the day. They don't want to build up equity every month by paying into that. You seem to have a pretty strong opinion as far as that 50 years is not only the inflationary force, I think, but it's also just strategic in general. The risk isn't particularly mitigated. You seem to have a pretty hard line attitude towards that. What do you have as far as people who go for that alternative approach of trying to do interest only, because 50 years is essentially interest only for the longest portion?
For probably about 35 years, if you think about it.
Right.
But it's basically interest only regardless. Now, there's, each one is a tool. And I'm not going to say this is for everybody or this isn't, but, when it comes down to fiscal responsibility, which is something we need to teach more, that's where it comes into play. There's no point in working your butt off to own a house just to pay the interest on it. Now, I mean, there's always areas, right? I live in northern New Jersey. I mean, an interest-only loan, your house is still going to appreciate at 5 to 10% regardless, so it wouldn't be worth it, or it would be worth it, I should say. But it's there's a lot of opportunities out there, and I'm not saying everyone shouldn't have ownership, because home ownership, because it is important. It's one of the foundations you need, and if you go to Maslow's hierarchy of needs, shelter is one of them. And I don't believe that everyone should rent, as it's probably a smart idea in some cases, but it's also expensive. You're looking at one-bedroom apartments in New Jersey at $2,000. Sorry, studios at 2,000. One bedroom's at about 2,400 in northern New Jersey. That's ridiculous. I think anyone could think that, right? But with the way that inflation's going with the home ownership prices and all this other stuff, something has to be done, and it's not 50-year mortgages.
Now, of course, I'd love everybody in the audience to take a moment and hit that subscribe button down there. And the reason why I think people should subscribe is because I put out content on a regular basis that is talking about real estate, talking about investment and all that sort of thing. And one of the reason that I mention it is not so much to just say, hey, make sure you subscribe. It's because I'm fortunate enough to get some fantastic pieces of wisdom from my guests. And one of the ones that pops out to my mind right now, as far as being one of the wisest ideas, was pointing out that when you rent, your rent is the maximum monthly cost for your shelter. Whereas if you are owning, then that number is basically more like a minimum expense. Basically, everything on top of your mortgage is going to be your problem. So if a tree falls on your house, any of those sorts of things, especially if insurance doesn't come through and they say it's like, oh, well, this is because it was the third Tuesday of the month and we don't cover the third Tuesday, who knows the kind of ridiculous things that come up. But I think that's an interesting idea to try. And I guess I'm playing a little bit of devil's advocate of just like, if you zig, I'm going to zag a little bit, and I'll say it's like, okay, so where's the sweet spot and the balance? What are your thoughts before we give everybody back the rest of their day for this month?
Listen, I'll be the first one to say American Home Shield I have. So when I had, and we've talked about this twice already this week, and it's only Tuesday, I had a backup in my sink. For $133 a month, they cover it, and I think I only had to pay a deductible about $100. So, there's options out there, and we can go into the whole insurance on products are scams as well. But again, if it gives you peace of mind, is it worth it? And that's what you have to kind of balance in your mind is that mortgage worth it? Is that value worth it? And if it is, go for it. I'm not saying not, but don't just do it because you can. Do it because it's a good fit for what you want.
I love it. I love it. And on that note, I'm going to remind you, please do connect with us on LinkedIn. I'm particularly easy to find. It's over here. My name is over here, and that makes it really easy to find me on LinkedIn. And if you can't find Ryan for whatever reasons, you can just DM me, and I'll say, oh, yeah, this is Ryan's information for that. If you want to hang out with us, there's going to be more than one opportunity in the next month to meet up with us and get some information, learning, all that kind of stuff. One is the workshop on underwriting that we have penciled in for the 15th of January, 2026. We also are looking to have some social nights that are going to center around some games. One that we're planning on doing is poker matches with clients of ours and people who are interested in finding out more of what we do. Our conversation today also makes me think that we should do some cash flow, the Rich Dad Poor Dad game, because there are some really interesting strategies you can do. Like you can even set up your own Ponzi scheme using bank loans inside cash flow. You're probably going to lose. You should only do it to stay in the game, but it's pretty crazy when people's real life savings aren't involved and you're just trying to get out of the rat race. But please do reach out. That's all I've got for today. Ryan, you got anything else?
Nope.
All right, then. Thanks for watching. Make sure you subscribe. See you next time.
My background has been in alternative investments for the past 20 years. I've seen just about every type of fund, worked on the accounting and operations side, and even at some of these big banks that I worked for, worked on a lot of projects behind the scenes to really hone my craft and, create Cardinal Financial Consulting and help people set up the right structures, handle the accounting and operations behind the scenes, and really take that away from the CEO's responsibility to make their lives streamlined. Sorry.